There's no one thing that will work with 100% of your customers 100% of the time. You have to remember that there are different strokes for different folks. There's different types of customers. Let's talk about all three. First of all, you have the value third. The value third are the customers that love value, they love service, they love high quality, and they're willing to pay for it. Then, of course, you have the cheap third. The cheap guy doesn't care about anything except the cheap price. Doesn't care about the quality, doesn't care about the service. He doesn't care if you're in business next year. The reality is he cares about nothing except the cheap price. Now, the value-based third, obviously, are the customers that we love, and the cheap third are the ones that make us crazy. You know, it's interesting about the value third that not only will they pay full retail or full list, but even if there's a problem with the product or service, they're very reasonable people, even when there's a problem. The cheap third, on the other hand, there's nothing you can do to make these people happy. No matter how hard you try, you can just never make them completely happy. So these two groups are very, very different. You have to understand that it's different types of people, and you have all those different types out there you have to deal with. But here's the thing you have to remember. Even though they're very different, they both have one very important thing in common. And that is, during your sales process, at some point, both groups will ask you for a discount. Even the value-based third will ask you for a discount at some point along the way, because let's face it, what do they have to lose by asking? But here's what you have to remember. The value-based third will still buy from you even if you don't drop the price. The cheap third, of course, isn't going to buy from you unless you drop the price way, way down. So think about this for a second. If you get in the habit of lowering your price too quickly, in other words, every time somebody just throws something out there and says, hey, can you do it cheaper? If you go to that cheap price, that discount too quickly, you end up giving valuable margin away to the value-based third that you could have kept. Now, I'll teach you in the program the words you have to say, but you got to remember conceptually that the value-based third, you can say no to the price discount and they will still buy from you. The cheap guy, if you give him $1,000 off, what does he want? That's right. He wants another 1,000. So these two customers are very, very different, but they do have that one thing in common. Now, I know a lot about the value-based third because that happens to be me. I work hard for my money. I like to buy nice things, maybe because I didn't have anything for 40 years of my life. But the reality is, when I spend my money now, I like to buy quality. And understanding myself is how I learned that you can say no to a price discount to the value third, and they'll still buy from you. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, I was buying a new SUV. Went to the dealership, we made the deal, and we're in the salesman's office writing up the paperwork. While the salesman's writing up the paperwork, I go out to the showroom, and I'm walking around this brand new, beautiful Jaguar XKR convertible, 500 horsepower, supercharged, beautiful car. I had been in several times to look at this car. It was one of those bucket list, items. I didn't have to buy it today, but one of these days, I was going to get me that XKR. When I'm looking at the car, the salesman comes and walks out and says, hey, Mr. Long, you want to go ahead and get the XKR today? And I said, well, Jim, one car a day, that's my motto. Let's just get the SUV today. I'll come back for this boy, somewhere down the line. So we start talking and go around to the front of the car, and there's a tag hanging from the front of the car. And it says 0% financing for 36 months. I turned to Jim. I said, Jim, I can get 0% financing on this XKR? He says, do you want one now? And I said, now, of course, but mine would have to be red. So he ordered me a red one, and I bought it in large part because of 0% financing. But here's the point. We go back into his office, and he's writing up the paperwork on the Jaguar now. And he gets down to the bottom where he has to put the price, and he puts the sticker price right off the MSRP onto the purchasing agreement. I said, Jim, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm writing up the paperwork. I said, but Jim, you just wrote down like full retail on the XKR. I'm buying 2 cars from you today. I've purchased 4 or 5 cars from you in recent years. You got to give me some kind of deal on the XKR. Jim looks at me and says, Mr. Long, here's the thing. I can give you a discount or I can give you the interest-free financing, but I won't do both. You know what I said? Okay, right? You can say no to the value-based customer and we'll still buy from you. But here's the thing. Suppose that Jim had given me, let's say, a $2,000 discount on the car. He worked on commission, 25% of the gross margin. That means that $2,000, that would have cost him $500 in commission, $1,500 in gross margin for the dealership, and all he had to do to keep it was to say no, right? So you have to understand you can say no to value-based customers. Now let's talk about the undecided people. The undecided people, these are the people that sometimes go value, they sometimes will go to the cheap side, right? They're the people who have a very expensive luxury car, a BMW or Mercedes, but then they'll drive it to Walmart because their car is really important to them. They value the nice car, they'll pay the extra bucks. But when it comes to buying a jeans or something, they just go to Walmart. The reality is there's a lot of people in this, in this category, depending on the service, the product, that type of thing. But here's what you have to understand. The undecideds are also great customers because they are trying to make a decision about whether they should go value or cheap on this particular purchase. And if you do your job properly and can show them the value of why they should come over to the value side, they are very susceptible to doing that. They will come around to your way of thinking and they will listen to you and allow you to finish your presentation. You know how the cheap guy is. I don't want the spiel, I don't want the spiel, right? They just want the cheap price. The undecideds are trying to make a decision, so they will listen to you and they will allow you to finish your presentation. So the key point of this discussion is that you have to remember, don't go to the price drop until you absolutely have to. People are so quick to drop the price when they don't even make an effort to try to hold the margin. I remember one time I was driving in a snowstorm and my son called me from college. And he said, Dad, we've got this blizzard coming in and I don't have snow tires on my car. I said, well, son, go to the store right now and have them put some new snow tires on. So about an hour later, he calls me up, and he's there at the tire store. He's got the guy from the tire store on the phone. The guy gets on the phone with me and says, Mr. Long, I've got your son here. It looks as though he needs some snow tires. And I said, yes, he needs snow tires on his car. I said, what I want to know from you is that he's not going to leave that store without his new snow tires. There's a blizzard going on out there. I don't want him out driving in this weather without the new tires. He said, sir, we've probably got 30 cars deep right now, but we're going to stay here if we have to until midnight to make sure everybody gets their new tires. Well, at that point, I'm a value-based customer. I'm sold. It's my son. It's an important safety decision, and I'm on board with this guy. So I asked the guy, what are my options? He says, well, we got your basic cheap snow tires. We got your mid-range snow tires, and, we got your high-quality snow tires. Again, I'm a value-based guy. It's my son. It's a safety-related decision. So I said, just give me the best ones you have. How much are they? I hear the calculator going. He comes back on the phone. It's about $1,000. So I'm driving the car, and I've got the phone in my ear, and I reach around and pull out a credit card. Just as I went to read the credit card number, there was a guy riding with me that said, ask the guy for a discount. I said, what do you mean asking for a discount? I'm just trying to get some snow tires here for my kid this blizzard. He said, well, just ask him for a discount, see what he says. So instead of reading the credit card that I had in my hand, I turned back in the phone. This is all I said. I said, dude, that sounds a little steep. That's all I said. Dude, that sounds a little steep. Without as much as uttering a syllable, I hear the calculator going again. The guy comes back on the phone. He drops the price of those snow tires, $200, because I said, dude, that sounds a little steep. Now, to illustrate the pure insanity of what this guy did, he dropped the price on a set of snow tires, $200, in a blizzard with 30 cars deep. It was crazy. It was insanity. Think about this for a second. Suppose the guy had come back on the phone and said, sir, I understand these snow tires seem like they're expensive, but these are our very best snow tires. Now, if you want to come back next summer and see about a discount on some snow tires, we could probably do that then, but I can't reduce the price of these tires in a snowstorm. What do you think I would have said? Okay, right? 4137. I had the credit card in my hand. My point is that people are so fast to drop the price, you have to hold your line on price as long as you can. If your company permits for some discounts, that's fine, but don't use them until you have to. Otherwise, you end up giving valuable margin away to the value-baster that you didn't have to. You give a discount to the cheap guy, he just wants more. You've got to hold a line on dropping the price. All right, you know yourself, your priorities, and you can recognize your own purchasing behavior with this perspective. And you can also figure out what kind of information would be more valuable to you as a consumer. Use that perspective and insight. Never forget, not all prospects are created equal, and not every customer makes the purchasing decision based on price alone.